There we go. Welcome. This half-hour yoga practice is called easy going yoga. We're going to start standing just so that we can kind of like let go of some energy, and then we'll move to the floor to close. So when you're ready, when you've got a space set aside, putting out a mat or a rug, letting the arms begin to swing from side to side like empty coat sleeves, letting your weight shift back and forth from one foot to the other. You might even begin to look over the shoulder you're turning toward, letting the head continue the spinal twist. And eventually letting yourselves come back to center, reaching up with the right arm, taking a breath in. Exhale, release. Inhaling, sweep. Exhale, release. Inhale, reach. Exhale, release. One more time, and we're going to switch to the other side. And release. Inhaling up. Exhale, release. Inhaling over. Lengthening through the side body, finding side breath. One more time. And release. Bringing your hands to your hips, taking a moment to circle. So feeling the tops of the thigh bones coming up into the pelvic bowl, feeling that pelvic bowl connecting to spine, circling one way and then circling the other. Loosening up the tissues around the hips, activating our center, beginning to feel like maybe we're contracting a little bit between the pelvic floor and the breathing diaphragm, bringing the feet and knees together. And we're just going to gently circle around the knee joint, letting the ankles be soft, shifting the weight. And then taking it the other way. Good. And then stepping the feet apart, lifting all 10 toes, spreading them as wide as you can. Lowering the toes back down, lifting one heel and lower, and the other and lower, and back and forth from one side to the other. If it's comfortable to bring your weight up over and down, you're welcome to. Otherwise, leaving one foot firmly planted on the floor. Noticing your breath, noticing where your eyes land, letting them leave the screen, finding a place out in front of you to let your focus rest. And finally, bringing your weight back into both feet, into standing mountain posture. Pausing for a moment and just noticing any sensations you've begun to perceive. We're going to let the arms rise, palms face the ceiling or the sky, hinge at the elbow, and release. And then we're going to add a little knee bend, just a gentle catch, bend, release, bend, and release. A couple more times, hinging at the top of the thigh. So it's a little bit like I'm sitting back in a chair with my tailbone, warming up the legs, knees, ankles, and then eventually just letting the elbows circle, legs come long. And so these are called the 10 turnings. There's lots of variations you could use, but we're gently activating, waking up the joints, and particularly inviting the synovial joints where there's synovial fluid to get awakened and sort of come to our aid, producing a little bit more fluid, producing a little bit more cushion, and a little bit of glide in the body. I'm reaching my fingertips now towards the floor, and then I'm going to reach them back behind me, spreading my fingers, rolling up into gentle fist, pulling back, wide, up to gentle fist, back and forth. Rolling through the fingers, rolling through the back of the hands, adding as much or as little energy to this as needs be. Sometimes if you've got stiff hands, stiff wrists, being really tender about it. If things feel copacetic, you might add a little bit of push and pull as if you were moving through water, and then circling the wrists and circling the other way. And finally, letting the hands come down by your side, back to our standing mountain pose. Letting your gaze leave the screen once more so you get to focus on something in the space you're in. Letting your awareness of the body drift to the soles of your feet, feeling the feet and their contact to the floor. Noticing if you have a tendency to roll in or roll out. Are you in the middle of your feet? Does it feel like you have firm contact across the ball, across the heel? And then drawing energy up from the floor. So there's this mountain pose is sort of the stabilization of the lower half, but there's a simultaneous sense of energy rising, right? So we're rooting down into the ground and simultaneously drawing energy up and letting it rise up and out through the crown of the head. Feeling the upper body as that magnificent rising of a mountain. And when you're ready, we're going to add arm movement, salutation arms, letting the arms spread wide, reaching up overhead, palms come together, and then the hands come down the center line of the body, a gentle bow as they pass your heart center. And keep going, reaching wide again, inhaling up. Exhale, letting the body breathe as your arms move. If you feel skillful in letting the eyes close, you're welcome to. Sometimes this can be a really lovely way to draw the attention inward. It can also challenge our balance. So being tender with yourselves, if you find closing your eyes makes you feel dizzy, leave them open. One more breath here. Reaching up and down. Pausing the hands at the heart center. Reaching the hands back up overhead. Opening wide and back to mountain. Pausing for a breath. Noticing sensations, noticing perhaps heart rate, breath, any feeling senses in the body. When you're ready, we're going to begin a crane to crescent or dancing crane practice. So what I'm going to do is just very gently begin shifting my weight from one leg to the other. You might open your feet a little bit wider. Got a little carried away there, right? And it's fun because it just means you begin testing your balance. How does it feel to be on one foot versus the other? Am I aware of my head being out on my, rising up from my spine? Sometimes if our screens are low, we tend to clutch, our eyes are pulling us down. So it can be important to, once you see what I'm doing, let your eyes leave the screen again. So I'm shifting the weight like I'm moving on a boat, right? I'm continually shifting. I've got a little bend and push to my knees. And now I'm going to add a little knee lift. So as I come on to my right, I'm going to lift my left. Stepping down with the left, the right knee rises. Easy does it, back and forth. So we're just beginning to challenge one-footed balance. When you're ready, you might begin to let your arms sweep up. Again, I'm adding one thing at a time so you get a few chances to practice. I was shifting my eyes and it can have a really big impact on our balance. So it's helpful to find that fixed point out in front or a couple of points since we're moving side to side. Finally, we're going to add one more movement, stepping the lifted leg back to a high lunge. That back heel can go down to the floor, or if you want, you could step further and leave the heel off, letting the arms reach up and forward. Crescent lunge. And then swinging the arms, sweeping the knee, stepping side. Arms, knee, stepping that working leg back. Arms reach up in opposition. So I find it lovely to kind of hang out here and get a stretch to that calf muscle, which for me is tight. You may find you have a similar experience. You may find it feels nice under the armpits just to get that length through the arms and the back body. I'll take this a couple more times. Again, noticing your eyes, head on the spine, gaze out in front, maybe at the horizon, maybe a little higher. Keeping the breath moving. We don't want to hold our breath. I'm going to take it one more time. This side. And then we're going to go back the way we came. And taking just a few rounds because now we've been in this for a bit. Back and forth. Maybe letting the arms rest, letting the legs continue for a moment. Until finally it's just about transferring the weight from one to the other, touching down with the toes of the non-supporting leg, until finally both feet are flat on the floor and there's just a gentle shift of the weight from side to side until you come to stillness. Pausing for a moment once again. If it feels skillful to close the eyes, you're welcome to. Again, noticing all the things: breath, heart rate, sensation in the tissues, the bones. Good. We're going to release mountain pose. And I'd like to set us up for a little standing flow before we take a final balance and then come to the floor. So this is Warrior 2 flow. And Warrior 2 flow is comprised of Warrior 2, extended side angle, and reverse or peaceful warrior. People call them either. So if you wanted to come to the front of your mat or simply step into a position where you know the space behind you is free for your body to move into. And I'm just going to demonstrate once and then we'll move through it together. So what I'm going to do first is step back with my right leg, and I'm kind of on the same line. You might find it's helpful to have that back foot out a little bit. Really, you want to find a way for this to be comfortable. And then the next gesture we're going to take is a knee bend. So this back leg is long. The outer blade of that foot is sort of anchoring the outside line of the leg down. And this front knee is bending towards the center of the foot. And I'm going to let my shoulders open with my hips. So my hips are mostly open. They're on a little bit of an angle. If I had headlights, they'd be going this way. And so my arms are open, back arm over the back leg, front arm over the front leg. So this is Warrior 2. And then we're going to take this for a few breaths. Then we're going to bring the front hand to the thigh. The back arm comes up into extended side angle. This hip drops. So the headlights are now pointing out and down a little bit. Extended side angle, and then reverse warrior. And coming back. And then we're going to just pivot to the other side. So we'll turn, change direction, take our Warrior 2 over here. You're going to have a slightly different view of me. It may be helpful. And here we go. Coming to a place from which you can step back. And potentially, if you want to step back with your left leg, that might allow you to see me. So when you step back, we're facing each other. Might be the simplest way to go about it. We're going to let the arms come up in salutation, just as we did before. Hands come together to the heart center with a gentle bow. Reaching back up. Opening the arms as the knees soften. You could bring your hands to your hips if you liked. And taking that big step back with your right or your left leg. Left to mirror me. Right if you find your brain is happier being on the same side as I am. Letting the arms come up. So again, front arm over the front knee, back arm over the back leg. Pausing here for a breath. We're going to let that front knee lengthen on an in-breath. And on the out breath, taking our extended side angle. So now I'm going to hinge from that hip, let that hip drop, letting the waist stay long. That front hand comes to the thigh and the back arm comes up into a position by your ear, by your cheek, out in front. Let that be comfortable. Some of you may find it's comfortable to come all the way to your forearm, and that's fine. I'm taking it high here. It's just where I like it these days. It's changing. And then letting that arm lift you up, reaching tall. Back arm lowers down, the front arm rises, looking up and out past that top elbow. And some folks like to stay straight-legged here. Some folks like to bend that front knee back into the warrior two stance, and you're welcome to do either. Kind of doing a little bit of research for yourself. And a breath here. Letting the arms flow back to warrior two, parallel to the floor. Bringing the hands to your hips. Front knee lengthens. We're going to pivot. So the front toes turn inward to become the back foot. The back foot turns out to become the front foot. Trunk is over the pelvic bowl. Hinging here at the front of that top thigh, the front leg. Anchoring down through the outer blade of the back leg. Gaze is down that front arm. Breath steady. When you're ready, letting an in-breath straighten the front knee. Out breath slides us into extended side angle. Front hand comes to the thigh, front hinge at the hip. Back arm comes up into a long side reach. Breathing into that side body. Letting your gaze find something out in front. And then reaching back up, let that top arm lift you, windmilling the arms. So now the front arm rises, back arm lowers. Letting your gaze be up and out past that top arm, that elbow perhaps. Once more, you might be happy straight-legged. You might prefer bending that knee. And finally, letting the arms come back to warrior two. And letting the front knee lengthen, letting the hands come to the hips, turning the feet parallel. And we're just going to bring the heels in, then the toes in, then the heels in, toes. Back to standing mountain. And again, just noticing your breath, your heart rate, feeling sensation in the body. Nice. Good. All right, we're going to take a brief balance in tree, which is a classic yoga pose. And I'm just going to suggest taking it as gently as you need in this moment. So if you have a lot of energy, you may want to challenge yourself. I'm going to start with the idea that maybe you've not done this before, or you might just need to sort of be gentle in your practice to start. So let's do this. I'm going to stand on my left, lift my right heel, turn my right knee open, letting that heel rest. Toes are on the floor. Hands might come here to the heart center. They might reach overhead. Sorry, my palms are out of the screen, but they're touching. Fingers are touching. You could also open your arms. If you were feeling like you wanted a little more challenge, you might bring the sole of the foot to the calf and take your tree pose there. Some of you, if you've done this before and you have experience with this posture, you might reach down, take a hold of the foot and bring it up to the inside edge of the thigh. And I want to rephrase myself there. It has nothing to do with whether you have experience with the posture. It's just whether or not this becomes a comfortable proposition, right? And then taking a few breaths in tree. Again, using your eyes as almost as if they were another limb of your body. letting them really reach out into the space. And at the same time, you have focal awareness out ahead. What's your peripheral awareness? How much of your arms do you see, right? Where are the arms? And I'm moving my arms just to gently challenge and activate my peripheral vision. When you're ready, coming back down onto 2 feet, releasing the posture, let the hips shake out a little bit, the legs shake out, and we'll take it on the other side. Left heel lifts, rotating the thigh, letting the knee point open. So your choice, right? What's the energetic need in this moment? This touch with the toes to the floor. You're still challenging that supporting leg, right? If you need more, bringing the sole of the foot to the floor, to the calf. And then perhaps if you wanted, if it was accessible in your body, right? Some bodies, this is a geometric challenge. Bone lengths differ, so it's not required. We're just looking for a comfortable tree pose that suits us. You could be holding onto a chair as well. You could nestle yourself against the wall. Good. Another breath or two, letting the arm come down, releasing that leg down, bringing both feet back. Once more, checking into mountain, sort of our base camp. How do things feel? What's the connection like in the feet? Where's your breath? Where's your mind? How's your body? What do you perceive? To close, we're going to come down to the floor and take two final postures. A bridge pose, which is a little bit of a back bend. I'm just bringing this down so it's a little easier to see. And a gentle twist. So coming down however you would like. If you need to put hands to a chair, you're always welcome to. I like people to feel like they can get down in the smoothest way possible, letting the effort be in the attention and your awareness. I'm going to bring my knees to my chest as I come to my back and just take a gentle rock from side to side, giving everybody a moment of loving care, a hug for yourselves. And then letting one foot come back to the floor, letting the other foot touch down, taking a moment just to feel gravitational pull. We've just made a very large shift in our orientation to gravity. So taking a moment to register that in the body. Where am I? What are my contact points? Breathing in and out. And then when you're ready, we're going to use an out breath to go from neutral, where our spine is resting on the floor, to pressing into the feet, activating the legs, lifting the hips. So the hips now come in line between the shoulders and your knees. You might bend your elbows and also activate the back of your upper arms if that's skillful. Taking a few breaths here. So this is a powerful push into the floor, resisting gravitational pull. Breathing steady. Eyes can be open or closed, your choice. And then gently rolling down through the backbone. Feeling the fullness of the back body on the floor. Arms open wide to a T. And we're going to just gently let the knees drop to one side. So my knees went to the left. I'm going to let my gaze fall over the right shoulder. And then I'm going to draw my knees to center. My gaze comes to center. And let the knees fall in the opposite direction. And the head and gaze fall away from the knees. Taking a couple more. Back and forth. You may find you prefer to find your twist and stay there for a breath or two. I'm someone who prefers to move back and forth from side to side, letting this be a little bit more dynamic. A way to just notice your comfort level there is, how does the low back feel? The space of your spine where it meets your hip bones. That can tell you a lot about whether you want to hang out there, whether you want to keep moving, whether you want to adapt that practice. And then pausing for a moment, letting your knees come together and your feet walk wide. Letting the arms cross at the chest, one arm over the other like you're giving yourself a hug. And just taking a couple of breaths here. Constructive rest, letting the legs turn off so the bones are balanced in such a way as the muscles. The invitation is to turn the muscles in the legs off for a moment. Feeling the breath, I'm going to open my arms and switch the cross. So let the bottom arm come on top for this next couple of breaths, letting the hands come back down to give yourselves a hug. Doesn't have to be forceful. It could just let the hands relax towards the floor, feeling the weight of your arms, feeling the shape of your rib cage expand with the in-breath, and relax back on the out-breath. Opening the arms wide. If you have the time now to remain here with the arms open, you might let your legs extend, taking our Shavasana or relaxation posture. If you have the time to stay there for a few breaths, that can be a lovely unwinding restoration pose. If you're moving on into your day, rolling to one side, and coming up, coming back into your day. Thank you for taking the time to fill your cup so you can fill the cups of others.